Welcome to The Growth Show with Matt Lenzie, where we discuss growth strategies both for business and a personal perspective, discussing all kinds of businesses, growth strategies, technology, investment strategy, and much more. We are meeting with entrepreneurs, investors, app developers, and property developers. Our vision is to help 10,000 business owners grow their businesses. Introducing our host, Matt Lenzie. Matt is a former banker and corporate financier. He now spends his time building his own companies organically and through acquisition, as well as raising capital for other businesses. Matt works with a wide variety of entrepreneurs and investors.
Welcome to The Growth Show. Today's guest is Mr. Mark Potter. Welcome, Mark. How are you?
Yeah, fine. Thank you, Matt. You?
Very good. Thank you. Very good. So we are here to discuss some of the things that you've been up to. And we've known each other for 3, maybe 4 years now.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
So we were introduced by a mutual friend of ours, Tim, who has quite an extensive network of developers and investors. I think he met you at you used to be the host of Birmingham PPN, is that right?
No, Leamington PPN.
Oh.
We actually met at Nimbus Maps on their training day.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So
he was doing talk on his current venture at the time, and we got talking.
Okay, interesting. And then we've met up a few times. We looked at a business opportunity where we were going to try and encourage young people to go and find us plots of land, and then that one got shelved. But I think from my perspective, there's always something that I've seen, that some kind of energy that you've got, and that's obviously reflected in your success to date. So yeah, what I wanted to do today, if that's okay with you, Mark, is to talk through how you've got to where you've got to, and you know you've got some of the status symbols that accompany someone who has success, and we'll talk about those later on as well. But
some good, some bad.
Yes, yeah, and some war wounds as well along the way, I'm sure. But yeah. So first of all, just wanted to kind of get a bit of an understanding about your background, your childhood, you know, where you grew up, you know, what your family life was like, all of that good stuff, because I think it's really important to put into context, you know, how you've gone through this journey and developed into the wonderful human being you are today.
Thanks. So I suppose start right back at the beginning. My mother was one of 9 children on a council estate. Right. And when there's 9 kids, you end up being the out. You know, I think she's the second eldest, so I suppose she grew up fast looking after younger siblings and things, and then she's always been a real grafter, so I suppose I've got my resilience and grafting from her. And then she went on to start a business that grew from nothing, mobile discos in the 80s. So, you know, what were they charging for them? Not a lot, very hard work, long hours, to a national company refitting out the likes of Wetherspoons, pubs and things like that, doing the audio visual stuff.
Right, cool.
So I've always been around somebody that's just gone and done stuff. Being my mother. Yeah, and just she's never had any handouts or anything like that. She was just doing it. And I had no interest in doing that, because she owned it with my father, and they split up. He went off and carried on that business, and she started another one from scratch. Just there we go, and that one's grown, not quite to the multi-million pound level, but that's on purpose because she's close to retirement age now. Right, it gets her by for what she does. So it's that, I suppose, resilience I've learnt from her, really.
Yeah. Okay. And in terms of your school life, what, how did you, what are your memories of that? Are they fond memories? Are they difficult memories?
Yeah, I don't fit the school model. I'll be honest with you. I mean, anyone that's sat down with me for half an hour could guess that. So I actually dropped out of school when I was 14.
Oh, did you? Right. Okay.
And that was back in the days you could get away with that. I mean, you can't do that now. My mum would have got into all sorts of trouble if we started trying to do that now.
Sure.
But yeah, I dropped out when I was 14, had enough. Just started doing my own thing. Never really had a job. Had all sorts of businesses in the background. Some good, some have made money. Some bad, some have lost money. But the important thing is just to keep going. That's what you've got to do.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's ironic because I send my children to private school now, and some of my oldest friends are like, that's a bit hypocritical. You don't believe in school. I said, well, I've got to give them the best chance. They've got to have a chance to believe in it or not, haven't they?
And yeah, that's interesting. I guess, are you looking at that in terms of giving them the kind of social network that potentially enables them to have advantages, if you like?
Paying for their network. It's exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You've asked, I've told you, it's exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
They're just paying for the people that they get to hang around with.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No, interesting. Yeah. Good.
Some see that as wrong. Some see that as snobby. I see that as probably one of the fundamental things in growing a business is your network.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think if I used to work with a lot of people who, went to, some of the poshest private schools, including Eton. And, their networks were incredible just because of the people they went to school with. And, I had to work doubly hard in terms of my network and the people that I knew because I didn't know these people from the start. So, yeah, you kind of got to fight your corner a little bit. But, yeah. I think that can be quite an advantage, can't it?
Yeah, so. No, I agree. Sorry, I'm just going to message my missus now to tell her to shut the kids up.
Good. Okay. So
let's keep it real.
Let's keep it real. Yeah.
There we go. Sorry, I'm back with you. I can hear them. It's going to accelerate. We don't want them on here.
That's all right. That's all right. So in terms of the kind of the first things that you did, so when you were 14, what kind of business did you set up then? And what
buying and selling cars.
Really? Despite the fact that you weren't allowed to drive?
No, my mate used to drive them for me.
Right. Okay.
Just little Peugeot 106s back in the day when we weren't so much of a throwaway car finance industry, and 17-year-olds would scoot through the local magazine and buy some old granny's car off their drive and stick L plates on it. I mean, you don't really see that this day and age. No. It's all £99 down, £99 a month, put fuel in it and off you go, which is probably better because those bloody old death traps that some people used to drive around in weren't the best, but so we're not that industry doesn't really exist anymore. But that's what I was doing. I was buying and selling 106s from insurance write-off ones, fixing them back up, putting them on the road, so on and so forth.
And was that a success straight away, or how did you kind of get that moving in the right direction?
That was pretty good because you'd buy an entire Peugeot 106. Like Quicksilver, if you like. Some people might know what that is, some people won't. Depends on your age. You'll know what that is, man. And you could get it off the insurance company for a total loss at about 600 quid.
Right.
But back in the day, they were still 7-8 grand done.
Yeah.
So all of the people with the non-Quicksilver ones wanted the Quicksilver seats, so on and so forth. So if it was too far gone, you just strip it down and sell them the bits.
Yeah.
This is all kind of pre-eBay boom as well. eBay existed, but everyone still thought it was a scam.
Yeah.
And I think Bezos was still just doing books out of his garage.
Yeah.
So there was no Amazon. There was, but not how it is now.
Yeah. Okay. And so on a car like that, you'd do it up a bit and then sell it on for a bit margin.
Yeah, it depends. If it was completely gone, it would just get broken for bits. If it was doable, we'd do it and sell it back out.
And so were you doing that work in terms of the renovations, or you paid somebody to
give it to a body shop or something like that? I'm no paint sprayer, I'm not going to lie. I was just out there buying them. Had a bit of a workshop on a farm, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay. And so from there, I would imagine you learn about cash flow, you learn about how businesses work in terms of making sure you got money to, buy your next assets and grow the pool of assets that you get control of, and most importantly, making sure that you're getting paid along the way as well.
Yeah, well, ironically enough, what happened was we bought a recovery truck because we was paying a lot of money on transporting the cars about.
Yeah.
And then actually, I ended up doing more recovery work than car braking because everyone needed it.
Right. Okay.
I mean, now there's guys that will go Land's End to John O'Groats for about a tenner. I don't know how they're doing it, but back then there wasn't so many.
Sure.
So yeah, we ended up just on the road most of the time, running around moving other people's cars about, which was actually a lot easier and probably made the same money.
Yeah. Okay. So it kind of naturally evolved into something, and then where did you go from there? Because I know you've had multiple different types of businesses in completely non-correlated sectors as well.
Yeah, they really are. They really are. What did I do after the car thing? So I was importing pet products from China in containers, like they're teaching you to do now, but I was doing that back in 2005.
Okay.
So that was nice.
Yeah.
Because that operated out of the same warehouse, because you drop containers into the same warehouse, list the stuff on. This is when eBay started becoming a bit more of a thing.
Yeah.
List the pet products on eBay, and away you went. That made some quite nice money, to be honest. That was nice.
Okay, so with that, to explain to those who don't know about it, you're basically identifying products that other people are already selling, and then basically finding a manufacturer, probably in China, who puts together a container load of those. You've obviously got to find the cash, and you've got to take the risk of, you buy a container load of 20,000 products or whatever it might be within the container. You've got to trust that the people that are manufacturing it for you are actually going to deliver it. There's always that risk that they don't. So you've got to find a trusted party. Then you've got to ship it over, and then you've got to deal with all the importation, taxation, and all that good stuff. Then after all that, you get the product, and then you've got to find a way of selling it all.
Yeah, and this is when eBay was right at the beginning. And people were just starting to trust it, especially at the level my pet products were sort of £10. I think the most expensive thing we had was 40. So I suppose back then people were like, we'll try it. We'll try it. And if we get scammed, we get scammed.
Yeah. Okay.
Because that was the kind of thinking behind eBay at the beginning, weren't they? Oh, it's full of scammers. It's full of scammers. You'll never get your product, and it's full of scammers. And then obviously they've grown into the two biggest platforms, that and Amazon, to buy stuff from online, especially Amazon. Amazon are just,
And in terms of that did you have, because now you've got all kinds of software that bolt onto Amazon and to eBay, so you can actually track which products are selling really well, which ones have got good margin, etc., etc. And the problem that you've got is that the Chinese can actually ship directly to the UK now as well. So obviously what that means is that kind of middleman role is being eroded somewhat. And in fact, Amazon, if they see a product that's really profitable, they'll just make it themselves, right? That tends to be what happens.
Yeah, they're a bit of a mafia like that.
Yeah. So, but when you were doing this is before all that stuff happened. So was there a way of identifying a trend, or were you just literally taking a punt on this one looks good, I like the look of it?
No. So eBay from the day dot had a bit of software called TerraPeak.
Right.
It's a bit like the Jungle Scout for Amazon. Right. And TerraPeak gives you all of the analytics. Nothing like what it does now, because being a piece of software, it's completely evolved.
Yeah.
But back then it was enough to see what was what. And there was very little competition compared to what there is now. Yeah, so you could get by with TerraPeak in its early days and a bit of trust for China, and it was all right. Luckily, touch wood, we never got bitten with that.
Right. Wow.
What happened was, as you just touched upon, the margins started going like this, because China started buying warehouses or renting warehouses over here, and instead of shipping one container over, they would ship a warehouse full of stuff over. And then when people clicked buy it now, it looks like the product's in China, but it's not. You still get it next day. And that's massive now. That's wiping people out on a daily basis, I would say.
Yeah, no, it's interesting how these market, I think quite often the first mover advantage in a market like that can be really powerful. But obviously, as it matures and evolves, probably a bit like what we're seeing with kind of cryptocurrencies and that kind of thing. You know, the early stage of it, it's a cottage industry, and gradually it becomes more institutionalized, and margins get eroded and stuff. So yeah, that's what's happened there, isn't it? Over the period of time.
That is what happens with that. Yeah, I mean, I was buying certain products at £6 landed, or that's what it owed in England, and they were going out at like 35, 40.
Wow, that's good.
We were doing multiples of them a day. There was times during that we were regularly making $4,000 a week.
No, it's good money.
But probably 1 or 2 hours work a day, just managing the orders in and out.
Okay. But interesting.
Like you said, these big companies will spot that and go, we'll have that. We'll have some of that.
Yeah.
And Amazon are the worst for it. They are the worst. I know people whose entire businesses have just gone overnight because Amazon are like, no, we're going to do that now.
And I guess my personal approach to these things with the businesses that I've built, and lots have failed and some have been successful, or the ideas that I've taken on, is I always look for a kind of multi-platform strategy. So you're not reliant on the Amazon or the eBay. You want to be selling through multiple channels so that gives you that diversification. So if Google change their algorithm or Amazon change their algorithm, you're not completely reliant on that one thing.
Yeah, well, the trick is, I suppose, now what the people do, I could be wrong, but how I see it, because I'm not doing it anymore, is they'll be using eBay and Amazon to get their name out there, and then trying to direct people from that to their independent site. That's the way I see it at the minute.
I agree. I think what I see is more people kind of trying to create brands around products, so that then you've got that kind of brand value thing, and then people build that relationship with that. So I know someone who does foam rollers, but she's got this brand, and she's got them in Harrods and really other good cool places, and because of that you've got that kind of gravitas that's associated with it, and it's perceived as a better quality product. Yeah,
even though it's coming out of the same factory.
But
I know what you mean. It's and that's the only way to do it. But that's not an overnight thing. That's going to take a few years at least, and a lot of pay-per-click budget.
It's a longer term strategy. You've almost got to get into a new sector. So like the electric scooters or whatever, they're now matured, aren't they? But if you have gone.
Funny you should say that. Sorry to interrupt you, but it's quite relevant. So lockdown 1, I got really bored, and just started landing pallets of electric scooters over and firing them on my old eBay.
Right.
Doing about 10 a day with 70 to 100 quid in each one.
Well, nice.
And that popped like a balloon after about 3 months.
Right.
But that was a nice in and out.
Yeah.
That's why I was only doing pallets of it, not containers.
Yeah.
I just got bored. All the agents were shut. I could only have one contractor on my site, so that was easy to manage. Are you there? Yeah, cool. Bye. What do? You get tired of sitting in the hot tub all day. What are you going to do? You can't. He's not supposed to go out, even though we all were. So I thought, I'll drop a pallet of electric scooters and fire them on and see what happens.
Yeah.
And then they flew out, because I wasn't the first in by any stretch, but I think I was the first big independent. I didn't have a brand. I wasn't trying to push a brand. I was just in, out, firing them out. And my eBay was the old historic eBay.
So you had that kind of, the recognition.
Oodles of feedback.
Yeah.
Oodles of feedback, top rated seller, in and out.
Interesting. So you've gone through this kind of trader type approach where buying and selling lots of different products. And I guess part of that is, you know, you haven't actually said this, but it's finding the value, isn't it? It's identifying where there's a clear differential between something you can buy for a price and something you can sell for a price. Yeah. So you did eBay. What next? What happened?
But the interesting thing, just to wrap the scooter thing
up.
Of
course, yeah.
For anyone that's listening that's going to be interested in e-commerce, that lasted about 3 months.
Yeah.
Now, bear in mind they take 2 weeks to come. You can't do that many before stuff pops. Sure. And you don't want to get big old brass balls on you and order a container. I'd be stuck with that now. And now they're retailing for what I was buying them for.
Wow.
And we're not even a year down the line. So you've got to be really careful. These are fast trends.
Yeah, the one that I saw during the lockdown as well, because I was looking at things like this, was the Theragun, which is a impact massager, and I was looking at potentially getting those, and you could pick them up on eBay for 30 to 40 quid if you created a brand with them, sell them for 150. You know, still cheaper than the Theragun, you know, give a warranty with it and so on and so forth. But, you know, now they're literally selling for 40 pounds. You know, I saw them in Costco the other day. So it just shows you how quickly it can really shift against you. It's quite incredible.
Yeah, you can really, really fall out of bed doing the e-commerce stuff if you're going to follow that model.
Mm.
My recommendation is, and not the most successful people I know, but the most consistent people I know on Amazon have built a brand and are still building a brand, and they're not so much protected against trends, but it's safeguarded, certainly.
So a couple of guys that I know in the States, what they do is they get end of line manufactured products. So basically, when Apple releases a new iPhone, they get last year's iPhones and then sell those on. You know, and they get. I mean, they do $40 million a year. You know, they've built a really good business. So
easy. I mean, that model works. Look at Bicester Village. That's what they do.
Exactly.
There's nothing new in Bicester Village. It's just outlet.
No, exactly. Exactly. Cool. So you develop this kind of, should we call it hustle, in terms of identifying potential opportunities. Where did you go next from the eBay stuff?
From e-commerce, I went back to vehicles.
Right.
Not in the usual sense. I went back to military vehicles.
Right.
So tanks, jeeps.
Right.
And that sort of stuff. And that built up two businesses, really, because we started doing army surplus and army gear on the eBay shop.
Right, okay.
We still had the eBay shop. I've never given that up, and I wouldn't give it up now.
Sure.
To me, to sell to someone, it's not really worth anything. But for me, it's a nice safety blanket. And if I spot a trend, I would fire a pallet into it, just because it's quite good fun.
Yeah.
So we went into doing military vehicles, and that was good. That was really good, to be fair. So that then went into deactivated firearms. So we were doing in Land Rovers, Jeeps, tanks, anything military, armored stuff, you know, AK-47s, Uzis, all that stuff, but deactivated for collectors. And that was good. We did that for years. And we actually at one point had the army surplus eBay shop touching 40k a month consistently.
Wow. And now, what kind of margin was on that?
Next to nothing, but it came with the vehicle stuff. You're buying it from the same people. So you might as well just buy loads of stuff. You go in there anyway. But I mean, some of that stuff was £4 and £5.
Yeah.
And to get it turning over that, you know, after that 40 grand, you're probably left with 7.
That's still a respectable margin, isn't it?
Yeah. Considering eBay take their bit, PayPal were taking their bit, and
postage, all the rest of it,
and all the rest of it. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Bear in mind, when would this have been now? This is like pre-2012 as well. So 7 grand back then's a lot more.
Yeah. Okay.
So
and then you got into the firearms as well, didn't you? More formally.
Yeah. So what happened then was we took on a big warehouse, put all the vehicles in it, and was going on. And then I decided that I had enough of the stinky military stuff. I wanted to do the posher stuff. I wanted to do the shotguns and the tweed and all the rest of it.
Okay.
So I built a gun shop out of containers in the warehouse.
Right. Okay.
So I bought a load of shipping containers, 1, 2, 3 shipping containers, cut holes in them, welded them together, and high-abbed them into the corner of the warehouse and created an airlock door and an ammo safe and got it signed off by firearms and opened a gun shop.
Right. Okay. So all safe and secure.
Yeah. So the vehicles and the clothing, the military stuff, was still running out of the warehouse.
Yeah.
And then we had a gun shop.
So effectively, by doing it that way, you were covering your overheads with the existing business, and then therefore the new business basically ran on the same rails. So you're not creating a potential risk in terms of overhead there. So it's quite a smart way of starting something new.
Yeah, and I mean, we were looking at the local businesses, the local gun shops, and they were sort of their yearly turnovers were sort of 180 grand to, I think one of them was doing 300 grand, and we were like, well, that's a nice ancillary business then.
Sure.
The trouble is, with our one, because we were quite good at it by pure chance, we did 1.3 million in the first year.
Wow.
Out of those 3 containers.
Wow. So was that were you advertising online, or that was just traditional word of mouth business?
It was traditional word of mouth business. The only advertising we did were Facebook competitions.
Right.
Because you're not allowed to advertise guns and things like that on Facebook.
Unsurprisingly.
Even though we're fully licensed and everything like that, they just don't allow it.
Sure.
But so we were running competitions to drive people to the page, and there was nothing they could do about that. So we would say, what was one of them we did? We got a cool box and filled it full of shotgun shells. I said, guess how many shotgun shells are in it, and win 1,000 cartridges.
Right. Okay.
But the other thing we were doing was the 1,000 cartridges we were giving away, I was getting given to me from the manufacturers, because I said, I'm going to run this comp.
Sure.
You donate something to it and we'll do it. And then we got quite well known for running these comps.
And I guess at the same time, all the people that are entering the competition, you're building your list, building your network of people. Yeah. Then you can effectively market to those people. It's a great way of building, establish. There's a bit of cost, which if you can get that covered by a manufacturer in some way, then obviously that barrier to entry is it gets you some real traction, doesn't it?
Yeah. So just to give you some idea. And I could probably log into the old Facebook page and prove this if anyone doubts it. But that cartridge competition, 75,000 people entered that.
Wow. Some big numbers.
Just to win 1,000 cartridges, which back then was 200 quid.
Yeah, it's a decent prize though, right?
Yeah, no one else was doing it. And no one really had again, by chance, luck, not judgment. Gun shops were very stuffy, full of old people, no Facebook pages, and certainly no eBay shops. We were first in with the social media stuff on the gun shop. I mean, they're all doing it now. Sure. They are all doing it now, but I haven't had my gun shop for 5 years.
Right.
Maybe 5 years, yeah. So it's all caught on the YouTube channels. It's good now. The shooting industry coming through are a lot younger.
Yeah, and I think part of that is it's kind of what I see that is across lots of sectors is the kind of implementation of digitization. So you kind of find these paths, and the initial go-getters set the trend, and then sooner or later, the others have to follow, don't they? Because if you've just got the traditional gun shop, there's one down the road from me. I don't know what their social media is like, and it's not the sector that I'm interested in. But if you know, I would imagine that they're quite stuck in their ways. They've just got a load of people that go there because they know it. Whereas if you're a bit more aggressive in things, you can really build traction in a sector quite quickly, can't you? It can work really well.
Yeah, because as anyone that does that knows, the more people doing it, the more expensive AdWords are.
Yeah.
Not many people were using the AdWords we were. And to be fair, we didn't really pay for much of our advertising anyway. The competitions really worked.
Yeah.
You know, there was still magazine advertising back then, and they were like, yeah, £600 for a page this month. We tried it a bit, and you get 1, 2, 3 calls a month from it, and you just think, there's 600 quid down the toilet. Why don't we just give away an air rifle that's 600 quid and watch what happens?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting.
And then obviously we got the manufacturers to supply the air rifles, so it ended up not costing us 600 quid. They loved it because they were attached to the campaign.
Yeah.
We loved it because it didn't cost us anything, and it brought loads of people in the shop, and everyone used to love coming in the shop because we used to have a laugh in the shop, and all the other gun shops are quite serious, you know, firearms, this, that, and the other. You're like, well, yeah, we're not running around shooting each other. Why can't we have a laugh as well?
Yeah. Yeah, no, interesting. And so that business went. So what happened? Was that bit of a bad one?
It was a bad one. It lost me loads of money. So I had I can talk about it now because it's all finished. But so I had an investor / business partner on that because it cost about 600-700 grand to stock it.
Right. Okay.
And
so
I
a
didn't
lot
have
of stock.
But I'd done the shop and done all the hard bits, had all the licenses and stuff. So they came on board kind of right at the beginning, but after the risk. I'd built the shop and I'd done all the alarm and I'd got all the licenses. So it was going to happen. Yeah. I just didn't have all of the money to completely stock it. So they came in, turned out to be a complete nightmare, turned out to be chronic alcoholic, actually. And we ended up liquidating that business. Such a shame. People still miss it now.
Yeah.
But it's one of those, I think I ended up, what did I lose? Painful amount, in the hundreds of thousands, not pounds.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So
a lot of the built up equity from all of the other stuff kind of went a little bit. But
and I think sometimes in life those moments can be the bit that can either define you or sink you, can't they? So how did you feel and how did you respond to that at that point in time?
Well, without swearing, and insert swear words where you think they're appropriate, I was annoyed, very annoyed, because we built up this business with a massive fan following around the country because of how we were treating people that came in. You know, we had a car park. I built a car park in the end, massive car park, so people could just pull in. None of the other gun shops have car parks. A lot of them do now because they've kind of cottoned on and gone on to industrial estates as opposed to town centre. But at the time, no one had car parks. So we put this car park in, I put a free coffee machine in, and we just liked people coming in. Yeah. People would come in and go, I'm not buying anything today, Mark. I'm just here for a coffee. And I'd think, yeah, well, that's what you think. Help yourself.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Oh, have you seen this one? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Have you seen this? And then also what we did was we still had the eBay shop going. So we stopped the military stuff because I didn't have time to go around the country and, in fact, the world buying stuff, because there's only so much you can buy in one country. So we were very often in Europe buying vehicles and things like that, myself and Samantha. So that stopped. And we just did like country clothing on eBay.
Yeah.
And all the stuff in the shop. So we just became that whole warehouse became one big gun shop before we had to pop it.
So do you think potentially at that point you were probably slightly overexposed in terms of all your eggs in one basket?
Yeah, really, because obviously I didn't expect a business partner to be such a knob.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to say what I truly think of him, but everyone can imagine.
Yeah.
We built this business up and we voluntarily liquidated it as well. And then I got into a lot of trouble because I wasn't willing to shaft anybody. So before the liquidators took charge of everything, I paid everyone off, which left nothing.
Right. So
that's how I ended up losing a lot of my money.
That cost you a lot of money as opposed to, yeah, normally when people liquidate, it's the suppliers, manufacturers, and so on and so forth, and HMRC.
No one got burnt but me and him.
Yeah.
I thought, if you're going to take this down, you're not taking everyone else down with you. I'll go down with it because it was my doing.
Yeah.
I created the shop. I'm not going to sting anyone else. So everyone got paid. And then when the money ran out, we rang them and said, quickly come and get your stuff. I got in so much trouble for that. Quickly get down to the shop now. Come and get all your stock.
Yeah. Okay. And in terms of, so how did you go around kind of, because I would imagine at that point in time, that was your identity, that you were known as the guy that ran that business. From a kind of psychological perspective, that's a difficult hurdle to overcome. What did you do, and how did you get around that?
Well, the last day of it was about the 22nd of December.
Right. Okay.
So you just have a little bit of a Christmas, don't you? And then by January, I picked myself back up again and just thought, yeah, I'll just go and do property now. I've had enough. I had a couple of a buy-to-let accidentally, and then we refinanced that. I refinanced the family home and just went full-time property, and that's what I've done ever since.
Right. So that was the kind of catalyst where you realised, right, I've got to start. Did you have any children at the time, or was that before your kids came out?
Two.
Right. Okay.
Two. In private school.
Right. So you
no
got
income.
You've got some serious responsibilities and serious bills to pay. So I guess
cars belong to the company as well. So I didn't have a car.
Right. Okay.
No car. Couldn't move the kids around. No car. Had to buy a 900 quid Fiesta van.
Yeah. Okay. So that's quite a tricky spot to get yourself out of. So you released some equity from your couple of properties that you had, and then that was the start of the property journey.
Yeah.
How did you? What was your kind of, to put that into context? You built, a fairly substantial business that's pretty successful in that, right? It's probably fair to say. How do you go from
about now that shop?
Sorry.
Still talked about now that shop.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, but I meant on the property side, as well as the gun side. Yeah. How do you enter into a marketplace that, frankly, you know nothing about, right? You as you say, you're an incidental landlord. You might have done a bit of construction work over the years with putting your shipping containers together. How did you go from knowing nothing about property to entering into it and then building a successful business in that? What was the kind of steps? Because I think for lots of people, they see huge barriers to entry in terms of property because assets are really expensive to buy. So how do you go about that? And what would you advise somebody to do who's thinking about starting that property journey?
Don't let that blockage that you just mentioned get in the way, because it's a lot easier to start a property business than a gun shop. It was easy compared to the gun shop. I wasn't dealing with the government anymore, was speaking to the police 2 or 3 times a day, so on and so forth. So it's all mindset. And then what happens is you Google property investing and then your inbox is full of shite until you unsubscribe 3 times from some companies, if not more. And you kind of got to filter all that through and not look at it as some fantasy overnight get rich scheme, and look at it as a business, because that is what it is. You've got to run it the same way as you run everything else. It's got a cash flow. It's got to have reserves. You've got to be able to manage it. Instead of selling guns now, I was buying properties and managing them. It's the same thing. You've still got those fundamentals in place. And
in terms, did you go through a training process, or how did you learn?
I touched on a few of the free days and a few bits and pieces like that, and then ended up on a VIP program somewhere, which, I mean, don't do that. It's my advice. Don't do that. It's a minefield out there if you want to get into property through the social media side of things. I think you're far better off taking a more sensible, start with your mind first. If you're going to go and do property investing, start with your mind, because going into it now, you need the patience of a saint. You don't need the script and the formula and the how to speak to an estate agent. You need some strong patience.
Yeah, but at the same time, as you well know, I look for a certain type of property deal, and they're hard to find. So you've got to sift through hundreds, if not thousands, to get those potential opportunities.
Yeah.
But when you get them, they can be very valuable, borderline life-changing if you get them away. So therefore, from a psychological perspective, you've got to be in it for the long term, which is difficult if you're looking for quick bucks. That isn't the right thing to be doing. But no. if you're interested in building a system and building a process that over a period of time you can shift into, so it becomes your business, then in my opinion, that's the way to approach it. So
yeah. So I mean, I started out doing buy-to-lets.
Yeah.
I just tried to collect as many of them as I could. And then as I did that, with my own money, it ran out. So I started bringing investors on board.
And to put it into context, because I know that the numbers are pretty strong, how many buy-to-lets did you do in that first year? Because it was 14. Quite a lot. Sorry, repeat that. Sorry. 14 properties in a year.
Buy-to-lets in Leamington. I've still got them.
Wow. So that's a pretty substantial buy-to-let portfolio.
I had to do something.
You had to do something. You had to replace your cash flow from the business that you just lost some money in.
Yeah.
So you started off with refinancing a couple of your own properties. Existing.
Yeah, the family home, and then I bought a buy-to-let in 2008 because I got some inheritance from my grandma passing away. I got 25,000 quid, and the caveat was it had to go into a house.
Okay.
So I thought, well, back then I wasn't quite as savvy and strong-minded as I was now. So I thought, if I don't put that into a house, I'm going to end up breaking that promise. So back then, I just went and bought a house, didn't know what I was doing, but accidentally bought one in a really good area that's ended up going up loads, and I bought it on the right mortgage. So that was a fluke. That was a complete fluke in 2008.
Sure.
I was not a property investor in 2008. You'd marginally call me one now.
Okay, and so on the back of that, you've refinanced those two assets that you already own. So you've taken some equity out of those. That's then enabled you to buy 2, 3, 4 more properties potentially.
Yeah, just get going. Yeah.
And so what was the strategy? You're buying well, so you're getting those at a discount to true market value, doing a bit of a renovation, and then refinancing. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, that's what we've done a lot of. Yeah, but it's not easy, and to be honest, it's harder now. But the barrier to entry at the minute, I don't know. Where would you say it sits? A bit higher than it was when I was doing it, even just those couple of years ago.
I think that
temporarily.
I think that at the moment there's high expectations from vendors. In my experience, in the conversations that I'm having with people, people want strong money for stuff, but that can be a sign that the market might be changing. But let's see, right? Because
no, exactly. I mean, none of us know. There's no point predicting it. Sure. If you're going to wait for the crash, don't be a property investor. You can't catch a falling knife. Just get on with it.
100%. I mean, last year, I remember I do some kind of financial analysis for some guys that run a HMO training program. So I used to come on as the mortgage guy and talk Savills numbers, frankly, just run through some of their numbers. And they were predicting market contraction of, I think it was 15 to 20% last year. And look at what happened. It went up by 10, or 10 or 15.
Yeah. How would you know? You don't at the minute. So you just got to buy right. Buy for the long term as well. Don't try and get rich next year.
Yeah. Okay. So you went through that process. You used up your money. You recycled that capital where you could, getting those turned around as quickly as possible. So you've retained all of those units, and then you brought in some investors to enable you to accelerate that process.
Yeah. So obviously, talking about what you're doing to people pricks ears up, and then they want to do it, and they have a look at what you're doing because I've got the active projects in my hometown, and it gives that confidence for them to then put their money into projects.
Okay.
So I could keep going.
And in terms of your construction side, I'm assuming you went through plumbers, plasterers, builders till you found the right people that you trust and can work with.
Yeah, I've got a good team now.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of each, but I've got my main ones really.
Yeah.
The only reason I've got other ones is because if I need something doing, I don't like to pressurise the good ones.
No, exactly. So you built up that team. So that core team is a kind of a key part of your proposition.
Yeah, it was then. I'm doing a bit of different stuff now, but it was then, yes, certainly. And I do still speak to them, all of them, on a weekly basis.
Yeah. Okay. So you've kept them busy. You've been fair with them, given them lots of work. So basically, if you shout, they'll probably push somebody else out of the way. And
they're pretty good. They are pretty good lads, to be fair. I can't fault them. I hope none of them listen to this.
And so from there you've built that core team of people. You've built up a portfolio of 14 properties in the first year. Where's it gone from there?
So we just done more stuff, like a bit of land development, bought some land,
okay,
bought an industrial estate, and just a few bits and pieces like that now. Trying to get like the planning gain and things on stuff. We got planning on something the other day. I'm just trying to do the bigger stuff.
Okay, and in terms of, because from a risk perspective, you've potentially got a bigger concentration in larger assets. How do you kind of
that don't cash flow while you're putting the planning in?
No, 100%. So how do you get around that?
Well, I've got my buy-to-let safety blanket. It like cuddles me every month. Tells me it's going to be okay, and then I can just risk bigger lumps in planning thing and make some proper money.
Okay, and are you? I'm assuming, based upon the recent purchase, you are beginning to see what you describe as proper money.
Yeah, it's been kind to me, these flipping stuff out. I never thought I'd be a seller of things because, you refinance them, and then when you get older, you pay it down a little bit, and before you give it to your kids, you make sure it's maximum leverage so they pay no tax, and off you go on your Sunseeker. But yeah, the other stuff, selling some of this stuff's been quite good, to be fair. Flipping the sites out on option agreements and things like that. It's hard, but made easier with the programs available these days.
So by that you're referring to Nimbus maps and other bits of software.
Nimbus, all the stuff that we use. You can sit here and whip through a desktop jobby in 5 minutes, and I hear people say, "Oh, there's no point getting Nimbus. It's all on the internet anyway." Well, it is, but what I do in 5 minutes will take you an hour. How many hours have you got?
Oh, 100%. And if you're looking, I mean, as we've talked about, finding value in a site is, it's needle in a haystack territory, isn't it? You've got to be sifting through hundreds, if not thousands, to find potentially one which might not work. So you've got to invest that time in these things to get to that individual one, and then if you're lucky, it might come to something.
I didn't even know till we spoke yesterday that there was a site limit on Nimbus.
Well, I've exploited that one, and they've restricted us on lots of occasions. But
200 sites a day. Apparently.
Well, I'm not sure if it is actually set to that, but there is an upward limit. So
I mean, if the guys at Nimbus are going to listen, just leave my account how it is. I'm not hitting that. If I'm looking at 200 sites a day, something's gone wrong. If I'm personally doing it, bloody hell.
So let's talk about some of the toys that you picked up. I see from your social media exploits that you were on regular shooting trips down the gym in the morning, as we talked about first thing, and in the hot tub as much as possible. So
for recuperation, that is. It's there's nothing more to it.
Exactly, but they're the kind of fruits of your labor, if you like. So you've sown the seeds of foundation. You've frankly worked your bollocks off to get where you've got to. And you've built up a nice cash flowing pool of assets. And now you're doing some of the bigger flip deals that throw out decent chunks of change when you get those across the line. So what does a day in Mark Potter's life look like today?
So today I've been to the gym at 6.
Right.
Done an hour of weights, done a kilometre in the pool, been in the steam room, had a nice bucket, and been in the hot tub. That takes you up to about 7:45, and then I started doing some admin, which is what I always do anyway. Whether the kids are at school or not, or whatever, I try and get all the emails and all of the stuff fired out before 9:30, so that when people get to their desks, they have a look. They've got the morning to respond, because as you know, when you're talking to solicitors and agents and things like that, it's a half-day response time normally, isn't it? You know, you'll fire out an email, you can blast out 10 emails and then not have anything to do till you get a response.
Yeah.
So get all that done. And then today I'm going down to London. Started going to London quite a lot, become a member of some of the private clubs down there.
Yeah.
So frequenting London a lot more, because as much as I didn't want to admit it at the beginning, like, oh no, not London, no. That is where it all happens. Mm. That is the mecca, if you like, of where it all happens when you want to do this bigger stuff. And you get some institutional finance and a bit of a drawdown from someone, or a bit of a more like higher net worth people to invest in your deals. Because we're not talking, you know, my buy-to-lets around Leamington are $500,000 and below, really. I've got any more than that. No, one of them might go $500,000 and the bite of the kebab with the wind behind it. But as a rule, about $500,000. So that's quite, you know, it's not a lot of money when you look at some of the other stuff that we've been doing.
Sure.
So you got to get around the right people, but at the right time.
Yeah.
I mean, the people that are zooming down to London having not done anything are going to get zoomed back up with a tail between their legs, aren't they, pretty quickly?
Yeah.
Wouldn't suggest firing down there as your first port of call.
Yeah, but once you've got a bit of an established business, you know, you can show that you've got a track record of doing these things. I agree. I think, you know, fundamentally, that's where, you know, some of the bigger ticket, you know, there's money everywhere, right? And I think that's the thing that, you know, that psychological shift from, you know, when you're from a personal perspective, you know, feeling things are tight, you know, you're forgetting that lots of people do have capital, and, you know, they're very accessible if you know how to approach them and do that in the right way.
Completely agree. I mean, you're the one to talk about the finance and capital raise and things out of the pair of us, really. But I agree completely. There is money everywhere, and if you're the right person and you're doing the right things, you could take your pick. I don't know why people let the money boundary get in the way, because I suppose it's an easy one to say, oh, I haven't got the money. That's okay. If you've got the deal, someone will fund it.
Exactly. But it's a fear factor, isn't it? If you're, you know, feel that you're inexperienced in something, it's getting that confidence to be able to go and present what you're doing in the right fashion, so that when somebody who has that money sees it, they can tell immediately that you're deadly serious about doing the transaction. You know what you're doing. You know, you're not blagging, because anyone can smell that from a mile off. You know, and you've got a structure and you've got a process, and you understand, you know, the finer details of what you're proposing to do. And most importantly, you understand what the risks are, and you can explain what the risks are and what the potential downside to an investment can be. Because if you can say that to somebody, they can then weigh it up in their minds, you know, here's what happens if it all goes well, here's what happens if it goes badly, and here's what happens if the world stops. You know, if you can show that to somebody, you're well on the way, aren't you? In my opinion. Yeah, no,
I agree. I do agree. It is no harder than that. When people say, how do you raise finance, Mark? Like, you kind of don't, do you? It's not really what it's about. You go and build a relationship with someone and present them something. You don't really look at it as extracting their bank balance. It's like, look, you're a sophisticated investor. Have a look at this.
Yeah, and I think you've got to treat these people as partners, you know, and that's it's doing things with a view on that longer term. When you're meeting people, it's, you can't expect someone to, go and give you a check for 100 grand the first time you meet them. But what you can do is you can sow the seeds of, this is who I am, this is what I represent, here's my business card, this is my branding. And it'd be great to follow up, and you build that relationship from there. It's, you're not going to get quick wins from investors. Sometimes you will, but most of the time it's a slower business, isn't it? It's a slower game.
Here's one for the beginners that are going to listen to this. I'm hoping you're going to agree with me, Matt. But what do you think today you could raise easiest from your network? 100 grand or £1 million? £1
million.
Yeah. Be difficult to get 100 grand out of someone.
Yeah, bigger tickets tend to be easier.
Yeah.
And actually, it's the same amount of work to raise £1 million as it is for 100 grand. Because
I'd almost argue it's less.
Yeah, because immediately you're filtering people that have bigger tickets, 100%.
The one with the million probably wouldn't give you 100.
Yeah.
Because they would say that's too thin for the pair of us, and I don't think it will happen.
Yeah.
It's always an interesting one that I say to people. I'm like, what do you think's harder to raise? 100 grand or $1 million? Oh, $1 million. Like, no, I'd be a bit on edge if I had to start trying to raise 100 grand. I think, this is going to be an awkward one.
Yeah, it's tricky stuff, raising money, but I'm sure we could go into another hour about that. So that's not what we're here to do. So you've now got some of the toys. So you picked up your Lamborghini, what was it, 6 weeks ago?
Is it 6 weeks ago? Is it gone that quick?
Oh, yeah. Maybe longer, I don't know.
No, I don't know. I'm trying to think. No, I think you're right. Yeah, no, that's great. That was on the cards. That was coming. I put it off through lockdown, and I think some people thought that I was just blagging because they were like, have you got that car yet? No. Well, we're locked down again. And, they kind of think, you're not getting one. It's like, well, I am. But when I can go out in the damn thing, I don't want a driveway ornament.
No, I know that feeling. Yeah, we've got a little toy in our driveway, and we've hardly driven it over 2.5 years. So, how did you kind of, from a personal perspective, was that something that you've always wanted in life, or was it just the latest toy in the line of toys?
Yeah, it's not so much of an always wanted in life job. It sits in the middle somewhere, I think.
Right. Okay.
Sits in the middle somewhere. My favourite car will always be my Range Rover.
Yeah.
If I had to have one car in the whole world, that'd be it.
Right. So Range Rover Sport, yeah.
All day long. Yeah, all day long. Or full fat Range Rover. Either, that's constantly full of shooting stuff, does everything. The Lambo, really, it's a bit of fun. It could go. If an investment came up and I needed the money, that's the first thing, get in the chop. Yeah. Make no mistake about it. But it's nice to have, and it's there, and I do enjoy it. And my kids love it. There would be some tears if that car went. They think it's the best thing ever.
Yeah. Well, you've set the bar quite high now, haven't you? So.
Oh yeah. They've already said, what are we getting next? As they're pushing the toy ones around the room. Yeah.
So was that based upon an exit from a specific transaction, or how did that come around?
Yeah, I wanted to wait until we got out of this lockdown business.
Yeah.
Some might say we're not there yet, but it feels like we are. And the other was I wanted to wait until I got planning on a specific site.
Right, okay.
But then I actually just bought it before anyway, 2 weeks before, because it got delayed, and I thought, I'm going to miss the summer if I don't get it now. We're out of lockdown, so I'll get it now.
Yeah.
But it'll go before Christmas.
Really?
Short term. and then March next year, April, get another one.
Aventador this time, or sticking with the Hurricane?
Well, I got advised off an Aventador. I really like the Aventadors. One, because the doors traditionally go up.
Yeah.
Every Lambo should do that. Mine don't. They go out, and they go out about twice the length of the car as well. Yeah. They're a right pain in the arse. And two, because an Aventador has got all of the technology the Huracan's got off it that make it usable, stripped off of it, because that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be the raw car. It's got all the mechanical stuff that clunks, you know, changs, it's uncomfortable and all the rest of it. So they said to me, by all means, get an Aventador, but one, the cab's smaller than that tiny Huracan, and two, you only use it more than 3 or 4 times a year, you're going to hate it.
Yeah.
So I took their advice and got the Huracan. It's all right. You can nip to the shops in it.
A daily driver.
I try not to use it as a daily driver because you can just watch the mileage going up and thinking, this isn't clever.
No,
but
those services are going to be expensive as well, aren't they?
Oh, I know. You watch the little counter and you're like, oh no. Oh no, it's coming.
so as much as having these high ticket assets can be a good thing, it can be very expensive as well. So you're not just buying it and that's it. You know,
you've got to be aware, haven't you? The running costs of them are horrendous, but just don't use them all the time. It's quite an enjoyable thing to get into. I use it for events mainly. If I'm going to go somewhere. Like I went to the polo at the weekend. The only events I can't use it for is shooting, because you can't get a gun in it and it won't go across a field. Although I did take it across the field the other day. So that's a lie, but it wouldn't get around the shooting estates.
Yeah, I think you want to be careful doing that because they're pretty low, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I went to it again. I had to bring it home and clean it. But I got caught. I needed to go to my site, which is rural. And I thought, I'm going to have to just go.
Yeah. Okay, and so you're seeing the spoils of, you know, some of the hard work that you've put in so far. What does the future hold for you? And you know, what's the game plan for the next couple of years?
Well, we're really going to go for it as from yesterday, because yesterday being the 27th of July, because this is obviously going to go out and not be a yesterday thing.
Sure.
So business partner who I'm going to see in London has just been cleared from cancer after his chemo treatment for the 2nd time in his life. Wow, so I've been a one-man team for most of this year, but now he's back as from today. So bigger deals, more and bigger deals.
Okay, cool.
This year's been a bit tough with that, but that's done now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good news. Glad to hear he's all right, and hopefully onwards and upwards. So in terms of your routine, obviously, you know, what we're talking about now is kind of larger transactions that typically take more time to work through. From a psychological perspective, how do you maintain the focus on the end goal with those things? Because it's quite a hard thing to do, isn't it? It's difficult.
Yeah, I think a good saying is, you know, be busy enough in property that you forget how slow it is.
Right.
So just have plenty going on.
Yeah.
And mix it up as well. You know, properties are people's business. So go and see some people. Take them shooting, take them for lunch. Go and see your agents. It doesn't all have to be desktop stuff. Mix it up. Mix it up to give you that, you know, at the very beginning, you can go and take an agent for lunch, and that's nice. That's work, really.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be, you know, holding back on things like that. Find the balance. Don't just slug because you'll burn out and not do anything.
And particularly when you're trying to get the wheels turning, because obviously, as we talked about, the transactions can take a long time. So therefore, getting that kind of pipeline of things lined up can be, it's hard at first, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is hard, but it's the easiest hard work you'll ever do once you get going.
Yeah.
You know, there's no money like property money, is there? If it's done right, it's such a good investment vehicle. But it's not going to happen overnight.
No.
It never will. And have a routine, for God's sake, in the morning. Whether that be, you know, you hear people speak of all sorts of things. I get up, I meditate. I get up, I read a book or whatever. I don't think there's any hard and fast rules. And I'm not saying be the 5 a.m. club. If getting up at 5 doesn't work for you, don't do it. But have some kind of start of the day, whatever time that is for you, routine that you stick to, because it just helps so much.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Any other top tips? Any other books to read? Any other quotes that inspire you?
Yeah, definitely read some books, but not too many. Again, I made the mistake of doing that. Set myself a goal to do 52 books in a year. I think I failed at 37, and then I don't really remember any of them. But the year before that, I probably did 5 or 6 that I remember. Yeah. But we're all different, right? Someone might be able to do. I'm not really of that mind. I'm more practical. So someone might be able to do 52 books, which one a week. Didn't need explaining, but do what works for you. But have a routine and take in the information. It's all there.
And is there a specific book that you'd recommend?
I don't know. Should I look through my library quickly now?
Yeah, go for it.
What did I look through? What did I read? It was really good. I suppose. What have we got on here? Library. Which one was good? You've got The Power of Now. You've got Never Split the Difference is pretty good for negotiating. Yeah. Sell or Be Sold To. The Grant Cardone ones are good if you're susceptible to the rah-rah stuff, which when you're feeling a bit low, I've done a couple of the Grant Cardone books, and when you've been like a bit like, listen to one of them, because it just goes on and on and on, doesn't it? It's like more. And, I'm not saying only listen to them. Then the other one, The Chimp Paradox, was good. Yeah. Tony Robbins' stuff's more stock market stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it depends which one.
But I think The Chimp Paradox would be good. Yeah. The game to throw a one in there that's not really business. Okay. Who's listened to The Game? Have you done The Game before by Neil Strauss? No. It's about a pickup artist. So basically he just goes around pulling women, but it's relevant because of all the psychology in it. Okay. Yeah, I like things that are slightly non-correlated personally. Yeah. But... So The Game by Neil Strauss. Read that, and just bear with it. Don't stop halfway through because you're thinking this isn't relevant. Go and do the whole thing, and then you think, yeah, that is how people think. Okay, cool. So in terms of summarizing, any closing remarks from your end? It's been really interesting to learn a little bit about your journey, and perhaps we'll get you on again to revisit things in 6 to 12 months time to see how that kind of process of going through some of the larger sites has played out. But yeah, so if you've got any closing remarks, and also if you could tell us where we can find you in terms of socials and also your business website, that'd be great. Yeah, so it's ErnestHardy.co.uk for the company. Okay. And then Mark Potter on Facebook, Mark Potter Official on Instagram. Instagram's where I'm most active. And then I've got a TikTok as well. I'm not sure if I should admit that, but I have. That's just Mark G. Potter. That's quite good. But yeah, Mark Potter Official on Instagram, really. Okay, cool. And any closing remarks? Anything that if someone's thinking about getting into some investments or building a business, what would be the one bit of advice that you would give them? Don't come this far to only go this far. There we go. What a closing remark. You're obviously nearly ready to do something if you're listening to this, and you found this. So crack on with it. Awesome, Mark. It's been a pleasure. I know you've got a busy day ahead. Driving the Lambo down into London, so I'll let you crack on, but I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Cheers, Matt. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Growth Show with Matt Lenzie. Please like our podcast and subscribe today.